Hello, I'm Dr. Pierre Simon, and it's great being back with you as we continue in this series, Embracing the Unfamiliar, Navigating that Fear of the Unknown, those scary things out there like traffic and all that. I often use traffic as the example living in the Atlanta area. It's always, especially during rush hour and all that, there's always traffic, so there's always a lot of good examples that I can give when I'm driving, and especially when I'm going along and I'm having to take a left turn in traffic, and I'm always thinking, oh, all right, I got to do what I tell everybody else to do. You know, don't be afraid, don't worry about it. You know, God will get me across the street. You know, it'll work out. There'll be a space. Hang in there. You get to practice all these things when you're driving. I'm sure you do the same, but especially with all this traffic. Well, that fear of the unknown, we've been talking about it, and the whys, the whos, the whens, the hows, all those questions we ask ourselves. The humankind naturally fears the unknown, and we've spoken a little bit about that in the past. Most humans naturally fear the unknown because of all sorts of reasons. I'm sure you have your own particular reasons. I have mine, somebody else has theirs. The role of the fear of the human development, that fear of the unknown is developed in us. Now, it could be developed through generations, from creation on, that original lie and all those things that went on there, that developing survival need, that need to survive. Well, what if this and what if that and all this and that? And then there's that innate stuff, those things we might be born with or other things that may have occurred in our experiences, and we'll touch on that in a moment. Biblical teachings explain our fear of the unknown in many ways. It talks about it. I often think about Proverbs 9:10, where it says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom." Okay, well, isn't that true? Okay, the Lord, He's omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent. Wow, awe. That's that fear talks about the awe of God, how majestic He must be, and yet He loves us. He created us because He loves us. He stands by us. He's there for us. And yet He's got all this power and all this capability and everything, but He exercises the fruit of the Spirit, because that's His character. The fruit of the Spirit, it has to be His character. If it's part of the Holy Spirit, the fruit of the Spirit, well, then that means that's Him. That's part of Him. And so He exercises love and joy and patience and all those other things in relationship with us. And He's asking us to do the same, not only with one another, but with ourselves too, when we're having to turn left in a traffic area, and with the other person who's slowing down in front of you when they shouldn't be. This verse of fearing the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, suggests that fear can lead to something better. It doesn't always lead to something bad. It can lead to something good. It can lead to enlightenment and enrichment, a greater understanding towards God and other things. There is a growth aspect to being concerned, apprehensive about something. Let me think this through. Let me work on this. I want to dwell on this a little longer, run it through my mind a little bit more. Well, as I'm doing that, I'm also enlightening myself. I'm enriching myself. I'm growing. I'm maturing. As long as I'm doing it in a constructive direction. That's the key, isn't it? Because fear, in the negative sense, in the adverse sense, fear is doing it in a negative direction. But if I take that same fear in a biblical way and put it towards a constructive direction, a healthy direction, which is ultimately God at the end of the line there, that hope, then, okay, now it's constructive fear. It's something that's wisdom, insight, there's something good's going to come from this. Just be patient and make that left turn patiently, waiting for that opening to occur. However, when this fear is misplaced and focused on the unknown aspects of life, it can hinder our growth and limit that potential. So when we're focusing in the negative sense, we're thinking of that in the wrong way. We're not going to grow from thinking that way. We're going to actually decline. We're going to go into a spiraling effect downward. We want to go in that constructive direction. From a mental and emotional perspective, fear of the unknown can be seen as a self-preservation, survival, as I said earlier. It's a mechanism that's in all of us. This innate fear has been passed down through generations, and it's necessary. It preserves us. It gets us through those difficult times, those stressful times. And again, those individuals who succeed, who do well in those stressful times, they're looking at that fear or apprehension or concern in a constructive way, in a hopeful way, and it leads them in that direction. If you're thinking of it in a hopeless way, a helpless way, a powerless way, which way is that going to go? Certainly not that way. It's going to go in this direction, which is backwards, not forwards. So it's okay to be afraid. Be afraid in a hopeful way, in a helpful way, in a way that says, wait a minute, I'm not powerless. I have power backing me up. I have God backing me up. Of course, I have to believe in God, don't I, to be able to do that. I have to have faith to be able to do that. And so we can't just instantly say, okay, I'm going to believe, and now I'm going to think this way, and I'm not going to be anxious anymore and all that. No, I got to work on it. I got to work on increasing my faith. I got to work on learning more about God, learning more about the evidences. We're not talking fantasy here. We're talking evidence in the existence of God. Evidence through the example of Jesus Christ, that archaeological evidences of historical events, biblical events. As I've said many times before, the Bible is the only manual, religious manual, we can call it a religious manual, in the world that proves itself through the evidence of archaeology, science, and all those other things. There's fact, there's historical facts there. None other religion has that much evidence. And as we've mentioned just about the coming of the Messiah, in the first coming and the second coming, the first coming over, I think it was like 392, 94 promises or prophecies all came true. The statistical odds against only 50 of them coming true are 1,500,000,000,000 to 1. I learned that from reading The Late Great Planet Earth by Hal Lindsey many years ago when I first became a Christian, and reading that book. How do you look at those statistics and you think, well, how can you deny that? If you're a scholar, if you're scientific, if you want evidence, well, there's all the evidence right there. So that's basically saying, okay, I need to build my faith up. I need to work on that so I'll be less fearful of the unfamiliar. The unknown represents uncertainty and a lack of control. Human beings seek familiarity and predictability to feel what? It makes me feel secure when I know what to expect. It helps me to feel like I'm in control of my life when I know what's going on and so on. And if I don't, well, then I've got to figure it out so that I will know. And when I know, then my concerns are eased. When faced with the unknown, we're confronted with a sense of helplessness, powerlessness, unpredictability, and all that just kind of triggers that unease inside of us, that anxiousness, what they used to call neurosis. Nowadays they call it anxiety, that pressure that builds up and the pressure that's pushing it down, the conscious thoughts pushing down those unconscious things that are coming up, and that pressure in between, that's sandwiched in between. They used to say neurosis. That's anxiety. And the more you're pushing down, the more you're draining energy from your everyday activities. Oh, now I'm tired all the time because I'm pushing all this stuff down here. All this mental energy is holding stuff that wants to come up, that needs to come up. So the more secrets you have, just using the example of secrets, the more secrets you have, the more mental energy it takes to hold it down, to keep it from leaking, to keep from being exposed. What happens on everyday issues? Now you're draining that mental energy from problem solving, from doing detailed things and so on. You become more forgetful and whatever else that may occur as a result. You don't have that mental energy because it's being drawn down to hold stuff down if you're keeping a lot of secrets. Sometimes just one big secret, a major secret. Perhaps someone had a significant trauma in childhood and they've never spoken about it. They've always been either embarrassed or afraid, or for whatever reasons they don't want to think about it. Yet the energy is pushing it up. It needs energy to push it down, to keep it down, to forget about it, to not think about it. It's draining that energy you need to do everyday stuff. And just relationships are inhibited because you don't have the energy to put towards that relationship because of the stuff you're keeping inside. When faced with the unknown, we're confronted with a sense of fear of failure, fear of change, fear of the future, fear of this, fear of that, you name it. There's always something. If you think long enough, you're going to be afraid of absolutely everything, afraid of pulling the Kleenex tissue off the box because, well, what might come out when you're pulling it up, or the dust that might come up, or what? I mean, if you want to, you can pile on the fears if you think long enough about it. Acknowledging that trepidation towards the unknown may hinder our advancement. It's going to hinder me from pulling the Kleenex out of the box because of the fears of the dust going up in the air or whatever might happen as a result. So it hinders my ability to pull the Kleenex and blow my nose. So I'm just not going to do it, and my nose is going to run and I'm going to be a mess. Welcoming the unacquainted introduces us to fresh experiences, chances, and prospects that propel us forward. It propels us beyond those confines of where we're trapped, where we're stuck in, and it guides us in growth, in that alignment, going in that healthier direction towards a constructive direction, an enriching direction, an enlightening direction, and a direction where we're actually going to be better in going in that direction than we are in this other direction. And certainly that's God's path, that better path to take. To overcome the fear of the unknown, we really need to cultivate an attitude of faith and trust. And the word cultivate is very important there. You don't just snap your fingers and say, okay, I'm going to believe, I'm going to have faith, I'm going to have trust. You have to work towards it. Very often in counseling, Christian counseling, if you might get a new couple in, they're going to get married and they're doing premarital counseling. Well, one of the areas that we'll talk about is trust. And I'll always tell them, never trust the other person absolutely. Never trust anybody absolutely. Don't trust me absolutely. Only trust God absolutely, because He's earned that level of trust. For all the rest of us, when we've earned a certain level, okay, you can trust at that level. Each time we earn a little more, you can trust more. And in some areas you may trust more, in other areas less, but it averages out. So we trust based on experiences, that unknown, those things that are unfamiliar. Okay, I've got to experience a little bit more each time with whatever that is so I can raise my level of trust in doing whatever I need to do that anxiety has prevented me from doing. As it's written, the Bible encourages us to have faith. And of course, there's so many scriptures in the Bible in helping us in this regard. And just this one scripture in Hebrews 11:1, now faith is confidence. We spoke about confidence before, how having that confidence is so important. I'm confident that God's going to help me turn left on this busy traffic lane. I'm confident that I'm going to get to where I'm going, irregardless of what happens. I'm confident He's with me. He's in the passenger seat. He's there talking to me or impressing upon me or guiding me. I'm lost. What direction do I go in? Well, Lord, help me to know which way to turn here, because I don't know where this street is, and especially if you're going into strange areas. But I know I'm enjoying the view. These are things I haven't seen before. So now I'm thinking of positive things. I'm not just thinking negative, adversely. I'm thinking, okay, I'm lost, but I haven't been here before. Look at those houses. Those are different. Look at the trees. Look at the shrubs. Look at whatever. Things I haven't seen. This is a new experience. So I'm thinking in a positive direction, in a hopeful direction. I'm not just thinking, oh, this is awful, this is terrible, I'm going to die here. No, you're not going to die there. I'm learning, I'm growing here, and this is interesting. I'll eventually find where to go because the Lord will guide me where I need to go. So as it's written in the Bible in Hebrews 11:1, now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we don't see. I might not see where I need to be. I might be lost in wherever I'm driving, but I'm confident, I'm hopeful, and now I'm at ease, which helps me to find the right way to go or look at my GPS and figure out where I am and how to get there. Otherwise, I'd panic, and we don't want to do that. By trusting God as a higher power and believing in the goodness of His plan for us, not my plan, not your plan, His plan for us, we can overcome our fears and embrace a limitless potential that lies ahead. I'm looking forward in a positive direction. I'm hopeful I'm going to get where I need to go. I'm now in a positive way or a positive mode of thinking. We can transform fear into curiosity and excitement by seeking truth and enlightenment, educating ourselves to expand our horizons and lessening the intimidating unknown. Think of those new experiences. Gee, what is this? What is that? I'm learning here. I'm learning there. This is a new experience. This is good. Think of what's good in your day. Don't think of everything bad that's going to occur today or things you're afraid that might occur today. What are some good things? I'll tell you something, a little thing I do it. Now that Linda's in heaven, I don't have a cook at home. So I got to stop and get a sandwich, on my way home every night. And I'm thinking ahead of time. Well, what am I going to eat tonight? Where am I going to stop tonight? And I don't like to cook. I used to like to cook. I don't like it anymore. I don't have patience to cook anymore. So I'm constantly thinking, where am I going to stop? And then I'm thinking the traffic. Well, if I stop there's a lot of traffic, this and that. So I'll switch that thinking and think, what have I not experienced yet? What's a new experience to have for dinner tonight? And that'll give me that hope to get through maybe that additional traffic that may occur at that place where it might be more congested than another place, but the other place you go to all the time. Well, I'm going to try something new. And so I'm going to focus on what's hopeful there instead of the negative. I'm thinking of the positive. The difficulties will surface in embracing the unfamiliar for about 45% of the population. So roughly half the population are melancholy temperaments. They have at least a melancholy in one area of their need social control, affection, social can be melancholy, or control. Their decision-making responsibility area could be melancholy, or their affection area could be melancholy. So that is going to affect them in some way, because melancholies are solitary individuals. They're loners, and they're serious private people. They have a propensity for introspection, and introspection is self-analysis. They're constantly thinking or brooding, thinking about themselves, thinking about what they need to do, inner thoughts, focusing, meticulous in their detail of things, and in contemplating. So they're going to tend to have a little more difficulty with unfamiliar things. The temperament is distinct in its heightened sensitivity to the unknown, often exhibiting a cautious and reserved stance towards those novel things or new things. Well, let me think about this before I try it. Now, I'm a thinker. I have a different temperament than melancholy, but I'm going to think through something, and all right, and what's this, and what's going to go on, and the consequences, good or bad consequences, and is it worthwhile, and so on. So I'm going to think through all of that. And melancholies, that's what they're going to do as well. We don't want to get stuck in our thinking, though, in that downward spiral, as I mentioned earlier. Such individuals may require additional effort. So I require additional effort to navigate the unfamiliar environments exhibiting those traits of seriousness. Now, as I said, I have a different temperament, so I'm not that serious, but they're going to be serious. And so they're going to have to think a little bit more. They're going to have more answers. They're going to ask more questions. Their preference for predictability underscores a discomfort with spontaneity. I don't like that. Don't come and tell them, honey, the boss is coming for dinner tonight. Don't, give her a few days, give her a week at least, prepare, or don't just say, well, I decided we're going to go to Tahiti, and we need to get packed, or that's going to drive a melancholy nutty. They're going, they have to think about it. They have to plan on it for a while. And that planning goes through their mind. They're being very detailed. If you just throw a monkey wrench in there, like I'm bringing a friend over for dinner, or I want to go to a movie, you're throwing a monkey wrench in the plan. Not a good thing, because angst is going to occur. The angst is survival. It's, oh my God, how am I going to live through this? How am I going to get through? I got all these plans made. I already know what I'm going to do. Now I got to change it all. It's not just make a little adjustment. It's changing everything that I've had in mind on making a plan. Anxiety creates anxiety within. So their preferences for predictability underscores a discomfort with spontaneity, framing a temperament that leans towards tradition in the face of change. Traditions can be liberal traditions or conservative traditions. They're going to be more inclined towards conservative traditions, but it doesn't mean it has to only be conservative. It's tradition. This is what I know what to expect. This is the way it should be. And something terrible, awful could happen, but I'm not changing. I'm staying with this brand no matter what, because it's tradition, even though the brand may have a lot of wrong things going on in it. This fear can impact decision-making, with melancholies tending to avoid taking risks and trying new experiences. They might prefer to stick with what they know, what's reliable. But in doing that, they're going to miss the potential opportunities that are out there. So melancholies, or that melancholic temperament, that has that innate fear of the unknown. It's rooted in deep thinking. It's a pattern. We have to break patterns. We have to work towards adjusting and turning those patterns, making those subtle changes. You can't make those big changes, but subtle changes a little at a time. So you have to give them time. If you're married to a melancholy and you're, let's say, an extrovert, a sanguine temperament, you want spontaneity and all that. They don't want that. Just got to give them a little more time to adjust. And then if you're melancholy, if you're more of a loner and you want that, steady and expect everything and all that, but you're married to somebody who's more of an extrovert, well, then you're going to have to bend a little bit more and just take that risk every once in a while. Just kind of close your eyes, grit your teeth, and just do it. It's going to be uncomfortable and all that, but you're making that other person happy in the relationship. And it's giving and finding that middle ground. And that's where we want to be, in those areas of dealing with the unfamiliar. But look up and be encouraged. Part of Jesus' Sermon on the Mount addresses the human tendency to worry about future events and uncertainties. It encourages a focus on the present and trust in God's provision. In Matthew 6:34, we read, "Therefore, don't worry about tomorrow," Jesus said, "for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own." I'm not going to worry about tomorrow. I got enough to do today. We'll handle tomorrow when it comes. I'll make plans, but I'll be prepared to make adjustments if I need to. In his epistle in the Philippians, Paul articulates a profound strategy for overcoming anxiety and fear, suggesting a path towards experiencing peace. Anxious people they just really desire to have peace. And I desire to have peace through the day, and not too much, because I like a little stress and a little change. It's stimulating and all that. But every once in a while, I want to take a deep breath and just relax and have that peace. He advocates in Philippians for engagement in prayer and petition. That is, take time to pray, take time to make your list. Okay, God, I need this, or I need that, or I'd like this, or I'd like that, or could you do this, or could you do that, or I have a need here. If it's okay with you, would you fulfill that need? That's petitioning, and it's accompanied by gratitude. Thank you, for the air we breathe. I wake up in the morning. Part of my prayer and waking up in the morning is, thank you, Lord, for every breath that we take. Thank you for the air we breathe and the food we eat and the liquids we drink. I don't always thank the Lord when I'm eating, so I'll thank Him in the morning for the whole day. Thank you for the food we eat and the liquids we drink. Thank you for the heavens above and the earth beneath our feet. I'm thanking Him. I'm showing gratitude. And then I'm adding my list, as the foundations steps, as we take those foundational steps to address these concerns that we have, we need that gratitude. Peter encourages believers to offload their anxieties onto God, grounding this exhortation or this expression of thanking God for His personal care for us. In Hebrews 13:6 and in Psalms, the sentiments emphasizing God's role as a helper and protector, which reduces the fear of human threats to insignificance. And again, you grow the faith, you have more trust, more confidence that He'll handle those threats. He'll help you get through those threats. So we say with confidence, the scripture tells us, the Lord is my helper. I'll not be afraid. What can mere mortals do to me? You can kill me, you can maim me, you can do whatever. but I've got eternity. This is just a puff of smoke, what we're living right now in the universe, but we have eternity. To believe that, you have to build faith. We're going to talk about that some more next time, and increasing and talking about that spiritual part of the unknown and addressing it. By integrating these biblical insights, individuals can be helped to reframe their perceptions of fear, encouraging a reliance on trust, on faith, on confidence in God and the resources provided through their relationship with God. So if we synthesize, if we put all these scriptures, and I only mentioned just a couple, but there's a ton of scriptures in the Bible. If we put it all together, there's a few key themes that are going to emerge regarding our discussion. And the first is divine presence and support. The consistent assurance of God's presence with his people offer a profound foundation for facing the unknown without fear. Again, I have to raise my level of trust in him. To do that, I have to read, study, pray, talk, experience, go back and re-experience through what did I learn from that? What were the lessons that came out of that? As I'm doing all of that, my trust in him is growing. Trust in God is another aspect. A recurring encouragement is to trust in God's care and provision, which counters fear and anxiety about what is unknown or understood. If I'm having a misunderstanding with someone, is it me or is it them? Well, Lord, help me to know. And so I'm going to research it. I'm going to consider it. I'm going to go back on experiences with that person and try to figure out, did this happen before? What could this be? And putting it together. Okay, would you help give me some answers for these things? Usually the Lord always gives those answers, within a short time. I remember, and I've spoken about this a while back, but God gave an answer to something that was really big years ago, but it didn't happen till about 5 years afterwards. And then the answer came just very strange way, but there was the answer to a particular thing that I had asked him or that I needed to know. Sometimes it'll happen like that. It'll be down the line, but you'll get that answer when the time is right. Call to courage is another key factor in synthesizing those scriptures. They're calling us to courage. Biblical narratives and techniques frequently urge God's people to be courageous, framing such courage as a response of faith to God's commands and promises. Be courageous. Now, sometimes I'll tell myself, Pierre, be a man. Face this like a man. Be a, or if you're a woman, be a woman. Face it like a woman. Sometimes I'll say those things to myself if I'm getting a little apprehensive about something. Be a man. Just get through this. We have to talk ourselves. We have to be the coach of ourselves. We have to pump ourselves up sometimes in going forward, especially if there's not someone there to help us with that. These biblical teachings encourage faith, trust, and reliance on God's presence and provision in responding to the fear of the unknown. They offer a spiritual framework within which individuals can understand and confront their fears, supported by the assurance of divine guidance and protection. Humankind naturally fears the unknown due to various factors, including adverse life experiences such as traumas, developmental inborn tendencies such as your DNA or a handicap of some sort, and a desire to control or to be in control. However, it's essential to overcome this fear to grow and reach my potential, reach your potential. What is that potential? A lot of times people just feel empty. They don't feel like they've experienced enough because they don't feel they used enough of themselves in reaching their potential. Well, if that means go back to school, or if it means study something or do something a little extra, maybe even take on a hobby or something like that, do it. Find that potential that you might have. By embracing faith in God, seeking knowledge, and cultivating a mindset of curiosity and openness, we can conquer our fear of the unfamiliar or the unknown and embark on a journey of self-discovery and personal transformation, change, growth. Well, next time, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to add a little bit more in talking about the spiritual dynamics of xenophobia. I hope you'll enjoy it and you've enjoyed this. Please subscribe and like if you got something out of this for today. May your troubles be minor, blessings more, and happiness come through your door. God bless.